Good evening. It is Monday, July 10th, 2023. At 7 p.m., we have a quorum of the Aransas Pass Independent School District Board of Trustees. Mr. Rector will lead us in the invocation, and Ms. Hill will lead us in the pledges. All rise, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
My Heavenly Father, we thank you for your continued love for us, even though we have shortcomings of thy glory. We thank you for being the center of our lives as we lean and depend on you. We ask your blessings upon our staff and our students while they are on their summer break. We pray and ask your blessings upon us, this board, and our superintendent as we begin this meeting. We ask all these things in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. It is for his sake we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mrs. Hill. Thank you, Mr. Rector. Hi. So it looks like this evening, do we have any public testimony? Okay. So pursuant to Board Policy BED, the board will allow each person who wishes to address the board on the to address the agenda items before the board's consideration of the item. The board shall not deliberate regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda posted with notice of this meeting. This is the time for the board to stop, look, and listen to public comments. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. You may begin.
And I will keep my own time. Good evening. My name is Blaze Miller. I live at 2133 Big Bayou Bend in Aransas Pass. I am an APISD taxpayer, an APISD staff member, and the parent of an incoming first grade student at Falk Elementary. My child is a worrier. This past school year, during the beginning of the first 6 weeks of kindergarten, students began their basic reading skills and were told that they would work on becoming readers throughout the year. So my child immediately started to worry about not being prepared for first grade. Because my child is a worrier, my husband and I work with her a lot on focusing on what she needs to do right now to prepare for the future. One resource that was extremely beneficial to us as her parents in determining what to focus on is the standards-based report card, which is used in pre-K and kinder. With the report card, we could see when my child was tested, what she was assessed on, and the areas where she had successes and where she could improve. These were easily identified by us and not only helped us when working with her at home, but assisted in fostering and maintaining a partnership with her teacher to support our child in her learning. With the standards-based report card, the work we did at home, and all the hard work and care of her teacher throughout the year, we feel assured that our child is where she needs to be in her foundational knowledge to enter the next grade level and be successful at that grade level. More importantly, however, my child feels prepared and excited for first grade. Throughout the school year, we could see her self-assuredness grow and see her begin to take ownership of her education. She feels confident not only in her math or reading skills, but in herself as a learner, which is something we hope to continue to nurture throughout her entire life. Now, is this all because of the standards-based report card? Of course not. However, when comparing standards-based reporting and a traditional letter or number grade, a traditional report card is just a letter or a number of how my child performed. A standards-based report card is a roadmap for parents showing how to help us improve our child's performance. I was excited when I initially heard that first grade was considering moving to this grading system after my experience with it in kindergarten. Last month, listening to Ms. Hawes' presentation not only further affirmed that excitement, but solidified my trust in the Falk team and that they are doing what is best for kids. One of the most pervasive issues we are seeing in education is a lack of respect for the experts in the field, our teachers and administrators. A common misconception that people sometimes have is because they spent their formative years in a classroom as a student, or they have experience working with children in a volunteer or in some capacity, that they have experience, this equates to the knowledge or experience of an educational professional. This is misguided. and it undermines the teaching profession. Our teachers and administrators have degrees, licenses, certifications, and in-classroom real-world experience. They are the experts, the professionals in teaching children, and have dedicated their lives to this pursuit. Acknowledging and respecting that expertise is paramount to ensuring the success of our school system. So closing, as a parent, I firmly support the implementation of standards-based grading at Falk Elementary in first grade, and I firmly support the teachers and administrators of Falk Elementary and APISD. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to address the board? No others signed up? Okay. Then we will move on to the next agenda item, which is our superintendent's report. Mrs. Cook?
Okay, good evening. It's good to see all of you here. We'd like to begin first with an announcement of our 21st Century Learning Grant awarded to APISD. So we're very excited to share this information with you this evening. We gave you some background information in your packets, but I just want to pinpoint a few things for those that might be here this evening or listening. This is a preliminary award. We're in the negotiation stages at this point, basically negotiating the total amounts based off of the other applicants that they have awarded. This is the Nita M. Lowy 21st Century Learning Grant, which is branded in Texas as the Texas ACE Grant, ACE Grant. We received notification on June 13th of this award, and we're very excited. This is a very, very competitive grant, one that we actually went out for a year ago, and we did not receive it. So we came back, went back to the drawing board, and looked at what could potentially be causing us not to get over that hump because they award certain points. And we felt like one of our big ones was that we need to make sure we had a solid partnership. And so our partnership with AP for Youth and the summer camp, summer quest that we put on last year, and the data we had from that, of that success, we believe that really pushed us over the top. We were able to show them what we will actually do with this grant funding. This grant funding will provide for after-school and summer programs for 2023-2024 and is renewable for up to 5 years. As I said, we do not have the full amount at this time, so I'm not going to state any of that until we know for sure what it will be. But as you can see, this funding, it's quite a large amount because it will fund a full-time site coordinator for 2 sites, a full-time project manager, and a half-time community engagement specialist, in addition to staffing costs that provide for a 15-to-1 staff ratio. Excuse me. This grant will support the creation of a community learning center that provides academic and enrichment opportunities during non-school hours for our students. It will provide opportunities for academic enrichment, which also includes tutorial services, which will help us as we continue to work towards closing the learning gaps due to the post-pandemic. Offer students a broad array of additional services, programs, and activities. This is going to be very exciting. We're through this opportunity, some of the wonderful things we do in Summer Quest, where we bring in like the science labs, or we take them on field trips, or bring in special guests. This funding will enable us to truly bring enrichment opportunities to the students of Aransas Pass that these students would otherwise not be able to participate in because it's not here, it's not available. So we will be able to bring in experts to come and provide for these students and open up their world to an array of enrichment activities. These are still being discussed, what all that will look like, and as we are working through the planning stage. And another big piece of this, which is we are very excited about, is this also will be an opportunity to offer families of students served by the community learning centers opportunities for active and meaningful engagement in their children's educations. This will include opportunities for literacy and related educational development. So this will be a chance for the school district to extend what we've already been doing and ensure that we start there and then take it to the next level. And this funding will allow us to be able to do that. So this is a wonderful opportunity that very few school districts are able to have the opportunity to have. And so we're very thankful, and more information about the details of what all this grant will provide will be coming to you over the next several months. So, and if that was not enough, we also received notice that we have another grant that we wrote. This one is a preliminary award, and it always says preliminary due to the fact of there's negotiation, so we don't have all the details, but we're so excited we wanted to go ahead and share it with you. This is a 2023 to 2025 Title I ESF Focus Support Grant. And the award amount is showing $230,262. This grant program is intended to support our district and school level improvement efforts to directly benefit selected district schools. The grant will be used to support and award schools with efforts to improve school outcomes and the implementation or in support of their improvement plans. This will affect directly Charlie Marshall and A.C. Blunt Middle School. And once again, they're in the planning stages of what that will look like, and you will hear more about that once they have it completed and ready to share with you. But these are two great opportunities for us to have funding to enrich our students and provide access that we would otherwise not be able to do. So this is very good news for our district, and we're very excited. And I appreciate Ms. Shelley Dominguez and all her team that have worked tirelessly to pull these together, because there has to be at least one that seals that envelope and makes sure it's all tidy, and Ms. Dominguez does a fabulous job with that, and we appreciate her.
Thank you.
Any comments on
Yes,
those before I move on?
On either grant announcement, any board questions, comments? Okay, if there are none, if you will please continue with our JET grant.
Okay. We have JET grant status update. As you know, we've been working through that. We put in a kind of like we used to do when we did construction updates. We created a little handout for you with some pictures, because we know we're to that point you kind of want to see what's going on. So I appreciate Mr. Bennett and Ms. Miller working on this to get this done. You'll see here that we have our health science construction. Walls are framed and the electrical is run through the walls. You'll see some of the framing that is up. I took a walk through there today, and it's coming along very nicely. To do at this point, the tech needs to run the drops and add Wi-Fi access points throughout, so they're getting that done this week. We're waiting on the interior glass. It's 2 weeks out. We wanted to have a viewing area, so from each classroom, and you might remember some of you took the tour in there where we'll have the two classrooms. We wanted to have it where there's a large window, so that the students would be in the learning lab while they're also out in the area that has the hands-on activities. So it'll have a real clinical look. So we're waiting on that glass to arrive. There's lead times on everything still. The panel walls, they're going to add sound barriers so that they'll be able to have classroom instruction while others might be out working on the entomology table or doing something out there, so they can have multiple groups working in different areas. So this is coming along very nicely. On the electrical, they're running the conduit and wiring. There has been some delay due to material supplies. So once again, we're having to be as patient as we can. I do want to say that AEP has been working so nicely with us to try to find ways to even do temporary things for us while we wait on the final pieces to come in, knowing that we'd like to have everything up and running by the time school starts August 14th. But I just really want to give a shout out to them for how they worked so well with the team, and Mr. Diven, he's been on top of it, trying to see if we can get this ready, but hands are tied once again to supplies. The health science is 85% complete. at this point, and the welding 45% complete. This is an area that this is where most of the electrical is going, and so there's still a lot that needs to be done in there. We have the exhaust fans that we're putting in. All 4 openings have been cut. The fans are on site, and so they'll be installing the fans and the wire and the canopies on the exterior. They're hoping to get that completed this week. So this is, things are moving very nicely, and if you'd like to take a tour, it's kind of messy right now, but we'll be glad to meet up with you and let you go walk through, or you might just want to wait until it's done at this point. It's pretty dusty in there. And then we also gave you, along with that handout, the status report on the equipment, because the main part of the JET grant, if you remember, is the equipment. That's the main cost. And so we've given you just another update, and they'll continue to do that each month so that you'll know what has arrived. And as you can tell, a lot of the health science, they're just about complete with everything arriving. There's still some things needing to come in for welding, and they're just having to store that right now until they get everything ready in the shop. So, but it's all coming together, and we're hopeful that still we can pull this off by August 14th, but we'll just have to see how quickly the electrical comes together. Any questions on that?
I got one question.
Mhm.
Who is doing the work?
McWhorter is doing the electrical work.
Well, I mean, the construction and all that, is it our people or is
Yeah,
it
yes.
contracted out?
Oh, yeah, the construction, yes, it's our people.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just getting up to
Yes,
speed.
yes, sorry, I misunderstood the question. Yes. Yes, as much as we can do in-house, we're trying to do, because of funding. So like I said, Mr. Diven, he's very knowledgeable and very capable, and he's got our guys working hard, so, and it's looking really good. So if you'd like to come take a look at it, we'd love to show you,
Yes, because Trustee Stansbury hasn't had an opportunity
to see any of that.
to see that, so, yes.
Yeah.
Did you have a
So
question?
AEP has not given us a timeline even on the transformer, a status update. Like, is it ordered and just delayed, or are they having trouble actually getting one?
It's ordered but delayed.
Okay.
And some of the items on the second document of the status report where it
Yes.
indicates August, are those items expected before school?
We hope, but
Okay,
once again, we don't know until they arrive, pretty much. I mean, we can try to keep tabs on it, but we're at the mercy of the companies.
but those students who will be part of this program will still have other types of,
Yes, the
of
team's
things to
already
work
been
on.
working on, if they don't have certain things that are available, the health science should be we feel very confident health science will be up and running, except for a few areas where they won't have some electrical outlets, but they already had some.
Right, right.
So they should be fine. It's the welding shop that will probably have to revamp a few things, and the teachers are very aware of that and have a plan B in place.
well, it's good so that our students are,
Oh, yes. And
Taken care of.
in the first few weeks of schools, when they do all the safety training and go through all of that, so they don't jump right into welding something the first day. So there's a little lead time there.
any other board questions or comments?
Do we have a plan in place in case the transformer doesn't arrive before the start of school? Do you guys have a plan in place for that campus for when it does arrive, in case it's on a Wednesday in the middle of the school day, because they're going to kill power when they connect that transformer? So
Well, yeah, once we know, then everything will have to be adjusted. We have to just, they usually try to work with us to try to do it where it will not affect anyone.
during our
during
operating
our
hours.
operating hours.
Okay.
But if it can't be helped, then we would adjust.
Okay.
Anything else, board? Okay. Mrs. Cook, if you'll continue on.
Okay. We have the Early Childhood Literacy and CCMR Plan Progress. This is being brought to you, kind of like how we bring, your policy updates, or anything that's got a lot of information involved in it, for you to revisit, because next week for your training, I know that one of the things that the Region Service Center representative is going to be looking at with you is the early literacy and CCMR data points, and what that means and what that looks like post-pandemic. So we wanted to give you the historical information. So that's your House Bill 3 implementation, early childhood CCMR, board adopted plans and goals, so that you could go back and revisit that and ensure that it is, you can kind of remind yourself, because that was December 2020, I believe, so that's been quite a while, so that you would be able to look at it and remember. If you have any questions about that or any of that data, and remember, it's old data, so as we move forward. So then you have the APISD House B3 Goals PowerPoint final that has some more information on it. So my encouragement to you here is to take time to read through this, and prepare yourself by next Wednesday when you'll begin that initial discussion. So that's pretty much what this was for, because we didn't want, when I heard that that's that we were going with that, I felt like that was, you needed to have this prior. And then if you have any questions, or you look at it like, what is this and why does it look like that? Be glad to try to help you, because there is a lot of information in here, and it's really mind-boggling. And as I was telling Ms. Butler, sometimes we get all this data that comes at it from different points, so it's massive, and then trying to pull it together and put it into something, to simplify it, so it kind of makes sense for you that only see it once a month or so. Sometimes we may water it down too much, we may not do it enough, and so however we can help you, whatever information you need to help you feel more confident in this process, because this is by House Bill 3 a big portion of your duties as a board, and so as we've gone through this each year, we've just revisited, but I think it's really time now that we have good data from post-pandemic, that you're able to really think about where are we on those marks of hitting at June 20 for 24, 25, and because if you'll remember, as a board, you wanted to set the standards above what the state targets were, which was great, but we didn't know at the time we were going to have COVID. So it's probably good to have a good conversation, looking at this again, revisit it, and do a deep dive and say, okay, this is where we are, and this is where we know where we need to be, and this is why we know we're not there, but what are we going to do, and when do we plan on meeting that goal? And that's pretty much what every district is having to do, is to revamp, because who knew all this would happen. So any questions at this point, or you can email me your questions and I can shoot you some information. I just want you to be prepared Wednesday night. I don't think you're doing a deep dive Wednesday night. I think that's like a preliminary, and then you might want to set another date to do like a whole House Bill 3.
Board questions, comments? I think it is important that we come back to this now that we have data post-COVID. Now that we have more of a realistic picture. There were some assumptions being made during COVID and immediately following COVID, but now we can, in the best interest of our district, determine, do we keep those same target goals? Do we modify those? Is there something else that we would like to include? So.
Definitely. Okay. Wonderful. Well, like I said, if you didn't get a chance to look at it before tonight, and you do in the next several days, do not hesitate to let me know what your questions are, and we'll get it, or we'll at least try to be prepared for you by Wednesday when you all meet.
And Mr. Molinek was not able to be here tonight, but he said that he would take a look at it and also submit any questions that he has, so that when we convene for that training, that hopefully we have a good amount of any current questions or concerns. We can start to take a look at those and formulate a plan or schedule a workshop or whatever is at the preference of the board.
Okay. Wonderful.
If there's nothing further, Mrs. Cook, if you'll continue on to our next item,
I
the
will.
dress code.
Next, for your information, it's hard to believe school is about to start. We're having online registrations opening up. All things are go. I don't know what happened to the summer. Here's the 23-24 student dress code. There were no changes from the previous school year, but we did want to bring it to your attention. So you had it in your packet. So in case anyone asks you any questions, you could just remind yourself of what our dress code is. After tonight, I believe it's tomorrow, we will be sending out a notice to all parents when school starts, what the school calendar is. Here's the dress code. Here's online how you online register, and the big one for the back to school is this year. We had grant funding for 3 years to do school supplies, and this year we don't have that grant funding. So we had the teachers did a great job of really pulling those school supply list in, and then we're going to still, as a district, we're setting aside some money to do some of those, like extra Kleenex, hand sanitizer, wipes, things like that. We didn't feel like the parents should have to buy that, so we're trying to take some of that off. So trying to find a balance with the school supply list. So those have gone out, and we'll send them all that out again tomorrow, so they can prepare themselves for that. So just wanted to make sure you are aware. So if you get asked, why is the school district, not doing school supplies? It was grant funded. We ran out of grant. We don't have that grant any longer. We wish we could, but it's just budgetary constraints. That's one area we're not able to continue. But we did try to make it as concise, I guess is the word, as we could, so it's respecting families and still the hardship that they're all going through. But anyway, so that's kind of a lot about that had nothing to do with dress code, but it's all a part of it. We're bringing this to you tonight because you as a board, we want you to still be aware of what you might be asked at HEB or Walmart as you're walking around. So
It's nice while it lasted.
yes.
Any other board comments, questions regarding the 23-24 dress code or information that will be disseminated for the new school year? Okay. Our next item is discussion of board member attendance at the TASA-TASB Convention and Governance Camp. Mrs. Cook?
This is, I believe I wrote this down right, September 29th through October 1st. And so we want to give you this moment to discuss if you are planning to attend, who's planning to attend. Ms. Miller is going to need to know this because that window opens the 25th. So for her to get the hotel rooms, and then discussing whether you're flying or driving, all that has to be planned out ASAP. So we wanted to give you a moment to discuss what the plans were.
Comments? Open this up for trustees.
Well, I know for sure I'll be going to the one in Galveston. I know that for sure.
I'm going to Galveston also. I can't make the one in September or October.
That's always a good one in Galveston. Yeah.
Right.
So Galveston will be in the spring.
Yes, I believe it's March, probably like the first weekend in March.
Yeah, February 29th through March 2nd. Okay. I plan on attending both.
I'm not sure if I will be available for the one in Dallas just yet, but I can let you know in the next few days here.
And any other comments or questions about both of those board training events? If possible, if you can let Blaze know by Friday,
Yeah, I just
if it's
comment.
possible, if,
That would be
so
great.
she can actually.
Dallas one.
I've been to both. I think David's been to both. Just preference. It's a lot easier to travel to Galveston than Dallas. Check in at airports. The convention in Dallas is nice, or the bigger one's nice, but the smaller one in Galveston's a little bit more informal. There's still some great classes that you can attend and some great collaborative work you can do there. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
If we all are available to do Galveston, are we then allowed to do our next team of 8?
I know you can. I know coordinating it is interesting, but you can. So, but it might be easier at Galveston because it's not as big.
Mm-hmm. If we are, I know we're missing some members tonight, and that's pretty far out in the spring, but if we do all, I would suggest that we go ahead and take that opportunity while we're all trapped away together in another town with no escape.
That's definitely something to keep on our radar. Seize the moment there. Any other board comments or questions regarding upcoming training? Okay, our next item, team of 8.
The final one is just a reminder of your team of 8 training is July 19th. At what time did they?
We'll be at 7, but we just think we're gonna have a special at 6:30.
Okay, so a special at 6:30 and 7 p.m. begins the team of 8 training. Second budget workshop, July 26th, 7 o'clock.
what's the special meeting for?
Code of conduct. Yeah, she was saying the special session will be for the code of conduct, because we don't have that yet to bring to you tonight. Being a legislative session, there probably are changes, and we thought you really need to approve that before school starts. So, I mean, you could approve it the next board meeting, but that's August 14th, which is the night after the first day of school has ended. So she's going to, once she gets the information, put it together as quickly as possible. We'll shoot it out to you via email, board packet, every way we can, so you can start looking at it, highlight any changes so you'll know. It's going to be a quick turnaround unless you don't see the need to do it before school starts. But the parents have to sign off on it, so that becomes very problematic for us to get them to sign off on it after the fact. So that's what we were trying to do.
So for our viewing public, we're waiting to receive any potential updates and changes from the state of Texas regarding our student code of conduct. And so that is still pending, but once it's received, then our staff will work quickly to formulate that in our district student code of conduct for the board to review and consider with any possible action. But yes, it would be nice to adopt that so that that's part of the material that our parents and guardians can have leading into our school year. So hopefully it arrives in time before next week. It's supposed to be in tomorrow? Okay. All right. Well, if so, we know that you'll work quickly to get that ready for our review. So thank you in advance.
Blaze, could you also send us out a reminder the day before? Appreciate it.
Anything else regarding the Team of 8 training, second budget workshop, or the upcoming special meeting for the student code of conduct? Okay, then. Our next item, we'll move on. Financial reports. Mrs. Cook?
Okay, we're available for any questions you might have, or Ms. Stansbury would like to share anything.
So the financial reports from June 2023 include the accounts payable in our board book, budget status and investment report, FEMA projects report, ESSER 3 expenditure report. There's a notation that the tax collection report was not received from Sanpete County in time for staff to prepare a monthly report for us, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so that tax collection report for July 2023, we anticipate that will be in our, presented at our August regular board meeting. Anything further, Mrs. Stansberry? So Board of Trustees, the first report is accounts payable. Any comments, questions? Next report, budget status and investment. Trustee comments or questions there? FEMA projects report. Or the ESSER 3 expenditure report. Just on the ESSER 3, that will be listed here until we exhaust the funds, Mrs. Cook? Okay, so that'll be in our packet until, okay. Well, if there's nothing further on the financial reports, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mrs. Cook?
Your minutes from the June 12th, 2023 regular meeting, and you have a June 26th, 2023 budget workshop.
Trustees, for both summary minutes for the regular meeting of June 12th. Any
I move we accept,
adjustments or questions?
I move we approve the minutes of both the regular board meeting and the budget workshop.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and second to accept both summary minutes as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, same sign or nay? Okay. Motion carries. Both are approved as written. Now we'll move on to our action agenda. Consider and approve standards-based grading report card for first grade. Mrs. Cook?
We brought this back tonight. We had some questions that you had requested that we look at. I want to thank the staff members that came tonight in support of this and on a summer night here. Thank you for that, and thank you, Blaze, for your passionate speaking toward for in support of this. So we basically put back into the packet the PowerPoint that they had given you with all of the information, and then the last three slides did have the additional information that was trying to address what was requested the best that we understood the request. So we did do a parent survey, and out of the parents that we had, we didn't have a great response, which is whether we're in session, out of session is usually the case. 100% said a list of standards to be learned in each class is either somewhat or very important. 84% said that a score to tell how well my child performed on each standard is somewhat or very important. 100% said that information about how much progress my child has made from the beginning to the end of the year is somewhat or very important. Then we had 6 respondents wanted more information about standards-based grading, but all 6 said that a list of standards to be learned in each class and a score to tell how my child performed on each standard was somewhat or very important. 5 of the 6 said that information about how much progress my child has made from the beginning to the end is very important. We find this, it tells us that that when we did the survey, using the phrase standard-based report card probably threw them off because most of these parents, their children have used this report card. So probably we should have just said, using the report card that you have been using, how do you feel about it? So I think a lot of our parents don't realize that's what it's called. So I don't know that that's important that they know that, except when you're doing a survey and then and you're asking them that question. So I mean, we could teach them to call it that, but I think it's more about what does it do for the parents? What does it do for the student? And how does it help the teacher to better be equipped to help the child? We had 2 respondents that said they did not wish for standards-based grading to be implemented at Falk, but both then said that a score to show how well my child learned each standard is important, and agreed about how much progress my child has made from the beginning to the end of the year is very important. So once again, we felt like these two did not understand the question, basically. They didn't understand what the standard-based report card is, or that that's what it's called. So these were our parent survey results, and we look back historically as far as we could. In pre-K kinder, we've used the standard-based report card here in Aransas Pass ISD. We couldn't find exactly when it was ever approved, but we went back to the archives, Blaze did, and it was 2011 was the first time we saw any information on it. So it's been used in this district for quite some time at those grade levels. So it's not a new concept for the district. It's just a new idea to move it up to the next grade level. Any questions on the parent survey results?
How many surveys were sent out?
Blaze, do you have, when you say how many, oh, you want to speak to that?
When we released it on our class dojo, which goes to each current person that's enrolled on there, which I think is 492. And then I also put a link to it on the Facebook page, and then Blaze sent it out through the school messenger.
How long did the survey stay out? For how many days?
So we did it the day after the board meeting, the last board meeting, and then they collected the data. Sorry, I've been out of town. Did y'all compile all this?
So there wasn't a closing date for completing?
No, sir, we left it open.
And you said that was how many parents? 400 and
I believe it's
Roughly.
492. I mean, I can go look on
that's
there
okay.
right now.
No, that's okay.
How many responded?
The last time I checked, sorry, I've been out of the town with my traveling child. The last time I checked, there was 19. Yeah.
Summertime.
Our response is not very well, no matter how we get surveys out, whether it be we send them home with paper, in their homework folder, or we, put it out on multi-platforms.
Okay, thank you for that. There were some questions about benefits and challenges based off of this. We put in your board packet some of the things that the staff, as in their research of this, what the benefits and challenges are. I'll let you just look through those, unless you'd like me to read all of them to you. I don't want to just read to you, but. I think the biggest benefit, the overarching here is for us to understand, is going back to the purpose for grading. Grading, especially in an elementary campus, especially at your pre-K, K1, even second grade, is the foundation. And that is the level at which you have emerging readers. You have them learning, their numbers, and then putting those numbers to mathematical use. And so those are building blocks. And as you do that, there has to be a progression, because if a step is missed in the progression of the building blocks, it can be very detrimental to that child in their learning progress for the rest of their career, because if you miss something. A standard-based approach, big word, for basically looking at each child, individualizing the learning for that child, and knowing where that child is at every moment through the process, and then being able to address the needs for that child to ensure that they are successful. This is one of the highest levels of being engaged as a teacher to a student, and then the teacher to the parents, that you can possibly have. There's truly an opportunity here to have conversations about where their child is and what is missing. Giving a parent an A or a B or a C has no meaning at this level. It has no meaning. As a former first and third grade teacher for 15 years, I can tell you from experience, this is the best way if you want to have higher levels of engagement, help your parents understand what their students are learning. This is an amazing way to do that. Why a lot of districts don't do it? Because teachers don't wish to do it like this. This takes more time. It is easier to slap a B on a report card than to go through a rubric and look at every area that is attached to every TEK and ensure that that child, where they are in that growth mindset. We have been trying to move the district in the past 5 years to growth mindset, to blended learning. Our Panther pathway is built on that growth mindset of bringing in a blended learning approach to meet the individual learning of each learner. That is where we set our path, you as a board, our community, the team that came together and spent all those hours working on these calls to action, belief, cultural tenets, our Panther pathway. This is another huge step that I am so proud of this staff that they wish to take. They wish to take the higher road and do it the more difficult way to ensure that we meet the needs of the students. So I bring this to you tonight, and please ask that you as a Board of Trustees trust the efforts of the staff and that this is approved tonight so that we can give the highest level of academic support to our families, something that we believe in. We know this will work. Will take them more time to do, but it will be a beautiful thing. We've also discussed how we need to help educate our families, have some meetings, help them understand, not necessarily that they walk away going standard-based grading report card, that's not necessary, but they understand the purpose of the reporting card so they can help their children. Because if we can grow this partnership through our 21st Century Learning Grant, through what Falk teachers and staff and administrators are trying to do, if you bring all that together, you are going to see tremendous growth very, very quickly, and we need your support in that.
Any trustee comments or questions?
Just for future reference, I guess what I would like to speak to is a couple of things. At the last meeting, my comment was, you're asking us to make a change with the 30-minute presentation as an action item. And I guess that's administration's prerogative to do that. But as we work as a team and we try to understand the information that's brought to us, just for future reference from where I come from, my standpoint, I'd like to see that information as an information item, something that we can chew on for a meeting or two to see if even that's a direction that the board wants to go. The other night, it was information that I had never seen before, so to make a decision in 40 minutes, I wasn't comfortable doing it after hearing that presentation. I think if we had had some dialogue before as an information item, that could have benefited from us. The second point is this: as a board responsible for the governance of the district, one of the things that we do is we implement policy. And one of in my training, I think in a lot of our trustees' training, my mentors always tell me, as long as you follow policy, you don't get yourself in trouble. And policy is there for a guide to follow. So one of the other points was when I talked about the committees or asked about the committees, is we have a campus-based committee already designed and should be sitting there for that information. So this was a committee outside that never went to the site-based committee. As a trustee, I trust the system that we have committees in place that are going to filter that information and vet that information and come up with their own recommendation to us. I didn't see that policy, that policy was followed in this instance. I don't know why, but that policy is there for a reason. It's for us, it's to guide us. Give me 1 second here. Policy DQB, the district shall maintain policies and procedures to ensure that effective planning and site-based decision-making occur at each campus to direct and support the improvement of student performance. So it's another avenue to make sure that we have stakeholders at the table or invested in the process. This committee consists of the principal, teachers, and community members. It should be a standing committee that's on every campus that we have when decisions like this are made. Under one of the subsections, responsibility, in accordance with the administrative procedures established under Education Code 11.25, the campus level committee shall be involved in decisions in the areas of planning, budgeting, curriculum, staffing patterns, and development in school organization. So curriculum's a big piece. So as a trustee that oversees governments and policies are being followed, I would have hoped that we would have taken it to that committee and had their recommendation. So that was my question on why an outside committee was formed, and we didn't utilize that committee that should have been there as well. Just some background information on those two pieces.
Any other board comments or questions? To piggyback on that, when this group was formed to consider on how to improve our reporting out for these younger learners, what was the makeup of the committee? I know y'all talked about it last time, but that there was a committee, but if you could let us know the composition of the committee.
It was Ms. Dominguez, myself. We opened up to basically any teacher on our campus.
We
So
made sure that it consisted of one pre-K teacher, a kindergarten teacher, a first grade teacher, and a second grade teacher. We did also open it up to parents. I had a little bit of response, but none of the parents were able to make any of the meetings.
Okay, and so when it was opened up to the parents going beyond the campus to engage a part of the community, how was that communicated out?
Well, the first, we sent a letter to all the parents, and I believe it was first in kindergarten parents. And then from there, I emailed the parents who responded that they were interested in the committee. And from
Okay.
those responses, I had, I think, 9 responses, and they completed a survey and just kind of shared their interest.
But you said those parents that were interested did not make the meeting? Okay. And how many meetings did y'all have? Do you remember during that
I
period?
have a sign-in sheet. I believe we had 5 meetings in the spring.
Okay.
I can get that information, though. I do have a sign-in sheet.
Any other comments or questions?
I have one. Was this something that was just considered this year? Has this been, there's been conversations for any length
No,
period
I
of time?
presented it to Mr. Mansfield last year, and we had discussed it as a grade level. This was my 3rd year teaching first grade, so I have brought it to the attention since I taught first grade. I had taught kindergarten for 7 years, and we did standards-based grading in kinder. So I had wondered why we weren't doing it in first.
And
Gotcha.
as a campus, we had had conversations about it since, I believe it was 2017, when the kindergarten report card was kind of revamped for our school. And since then, we had had slight conversations about it, but never fully just went that way.
Gotcha.
Any other questions, comments?
So one of the challenges that you guys mentioned, I know that we're already doing this in kindergarten, so you guys have experience with building out this rubric and making it work for the needs of the parents and according to the TEKS and what these kids are going to be learning. But I did notice that that was still listed as one of the challenges, was just the time involved with building out that specific rubric. Is that going to be done like an overall that will be shared with each teacher, or is each teacher going to do their own based on their subject?
The rubrics have already been created for ELA, math, science, and social studies.
That
So
was
they're-
part of our meeting.
That was part of
Yeah, that was
okay.
part of what we
Yes.
did in the meetings.
Perfect. I just asked because we've, since COVID, with the collection of data and as we move through the TEKS, even as we did our campus tours, where we saw this at Charlie Marshall, where the teachers who were implementing blended learning, they were also following the TEKS. Most of them in their classrooms were following along to the TEKS. And so So I see exactly what you're trying to do, and I see how that can progress onto the next level. But my concern then, even when we did our tours, was how do we keep this data consistent and across the board so that when we as a board and the community is looking back, it kind of follows the same flow. So that's the only reason I ask, and just to make sure that if it's going to involve systems in the future, if this is going to be a program eventually that we implement, that we have to pay for, that we're keeping our eye on the mark, to take some of that load off of our teachers, because I'm pretty sure if this is more work, that's probably why most districts aren't doing it, because teachers definitely don't get paid enough to do data analysis. So I just wanted to make sure that
It is. It's very individualized, but like Ms. Cook says, not only does it go with our blended learning, it helps every child along the way. Being a former special ed teacher of 10 years, when I was the secondary coordinator of the high school and middle school, I used to have to go and do planning sessions, PD, for teachers on writing rubrics, because rubrics should be made for every child, because that's when you really hit their individualized learning, and that's when educators really know what that child's learning. And so our campus is kind of making a big shift, like I spoke to y'all a little bit on the past meeting. Pre-K started with doing their data binders, because I plan on, in my next 4 years, that we're taking it from grade to grade, and every child in my school in 4 years, I want them to be able to sit with you and tell you where they were, but more importantly right now, where they are now, because that was the biggest thing that hit me when we went to Dallas. And if I'm gonna spend taxpayers' money, and y'all are gonna agree for me to go to things like that, Dallas was an amazing experience for me, because it opened my eyes of what we needed more in our school that would help our children learn what they need, which in turn helps us as educators, but it helps our parents too. Because a lot of times our biggest complaint is we wanna say they're not getting that help at home, but no parent's not gonna help their child. So many times it's they don't know what to help their child on, because we wanna say your child needs help on sight words. Does every parent know what sight words are? And so that's the other thing about this, because it is so individualized and laid out. I feel like it's really going to help all.
And as a first grade team, we have discussed meeting together and sharing the rubrics and actually grading together as well, to make sure that we are all on the same page. So that's going to kind of be a lot of what our grade level meetings will consist of, especially in that first 6 weeks that it would be implemented.
So the committee you talked about is going to continue, in a sense, to evaluate how the implementation is going, or are you just talking about just amongst the
Our first grade
teachers?
team, yeah.
Okay, just the first grade team. Okay.
Just because they want to make sure, what she's saying is they want to make sure they're consistent from teacher to teacher.
Okay. Well, certainly individualized assessments are directly beneficial to a learner, to a person, to a family. Beyond just a letter grade, it helps to drill down to where that child is at, where that child has been successful, and where that child may need a little extra help. Any other questions or concerns, trustees?
Yeah, I got a couple. I'm just
Sure.
trying to formulate them. Exactly how I'm gonna put this without embarrassing myself. But, okay, we were doing this already in pre-K, correct?
Sir.
I'm trying to get up to speed here. Okay, I graduated kindergarten. We're doing it in kindergarten now too, right?
Yes, sir.
So tonight we want to approve it for first grade. We're all on the same campus, right? I mean, we don't have another campus in between that I know about, okay? What's gonna happen after I teach somebody how to bunt and hit and catch a baseball how am I gonna get them to steal bases in the second grade? I mean, the transition going from first to second, we're going back to the letter grades. Is that correct?
Well, we did talk about implementing it in slowly, because we have talked about second grade going ahead and doing it too. But then you go on to that, Charlie Marshall doesn't do it at third. So we felt like that was a bigger piece of our puzzle than we were willing to bite off at first. And so eventually, yes, I would love to see our whole campus on standard-based grading, but we haven't gotten there yet. But we feel like because of the standards and the stuff that goes on in first grade, and that being the biggest check of their reading foundation, that's why we wanted to come to you first with first grade.
Okay. So we can look forward to having this argument for second grade here in another year or two.
Well,
That don't
we would
make
have to put another campus and principal in on that too, because, you know, third, fourth, and fifth are then different, so.
Well, more than likely, I would say second grade is about the level you'll want to have this type of reporting system. When you get to third grade, that once they come here, it's a different game anyway, because now you have the STAR test, you have all these other things. So there's a switch there that happens. And so at some point you will switch back to letter grades. But what we're seeing even here at Charlie Marshall, and none of those teachers are here tonight to speak to this, but we're infusing rubrics throughout the whole district. So part of the blended learning is using a rubric base to gain. So, and what they'll do, and we could bring a bigger presentation of that once we get there, but the rubric basically is, it helps the students individualize their learning and know that if I want an A, then I'll need to do X, Y, Z in this part of the rubric. If I want a B, then I have to do this level. So it puts some of that ownership back on the students, and they're already doing that. That's part of the blended learning process. We're already doing that. So what will happen is you'll have standards-based where it's being reported out on the report card here at the Falk campus, but as they emerge into third up, then you have your letter grades that are there, but teachers are using rubrics with the students to individualize their learning. So I know that's a lot when you've not seen that, but that's what we've been doing over the past several years anyway. Through this, it goes back to purpose for grading, and grading should be a reflection of the learning that has occurred and helping the parents understand that. But at this level, it's so important that they not only understand the grading, but they understand what was missed. And we want to do a better job of that all the way through. You have to have a numerical letter grade system, definitely by the time you get to middle school, high school, because of GPA. The rest of the world and colleges are not in tune with this, so you have to feed into that.
That was not my question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Eventually, we're going back to letter grades. There's going to have to be a transition for the
Yes.
parents to understand it, whether it's this year, next year, year after.
Yes, sir.
But if we want to do it for the second grade as well, why don't we just do it all at one time? Why are we wasting our time discussing all this? We have to go back and do the same argument and discussions next year, year after. If we want to do it all on one campus, let's get it taken care of. That way all the parents and all that going to that campus has got that. If we don't want to do it, we'll vote it down. I don't care one way or the other. But I'm just saying, why are we piecemealing it?
Here's a thought that two things. So the existing cohort of pre-K and kindergartners, they haven't had letter grades. So they're not going to go back, and those parents aren't going to go back, right? And so implementing first grade, it's going to be a continuation of what those families and those kiddos are used to.
And then second grade do the
But
same thing.
if we implement second grade right now, those first graders are getting letter grades right now, and then to switch them. So if that's something the board wants to do, is to go ahead and address second grade, is we could possibly consider action on first grade for the upcoming year, for this 2023-24, and second grade for 24-25, something like that, so that the same group of children are not having to switch back and forth. You just keep them with the standards base.
Well, if approved, I agree with that game plan.
Ms. Augustova, I'm sorry, Ms. Augustova, is that in your timeline? Is that?
We have not created the rubrics for second grade, but more importantly, I haven't had the opportunity to collaborate with another principal yet either, because then those second graders come to her in third grade, or even get, yes, we had second grade teachers attend and they saw the benefits for first grade, but it was never brought to them, that, oh, we're going to do this year for second grade. They know it might be coming for second. This was kind of like our let's step into it with first grade and see how it is, to see if we want to go there with second grade.
But if it gets approved for second grade year after next, like was the example, I give you a year to train or brainwash or whatever you got to do for the second grade kids or teachers. So I mean, you got plenty of time for that.
Or you could give a 2-year,
but at the
this
same
coming year,
time-
and then in 2 years do.
That was Shelley's
But at the same time, we need some kind of transition for when they do graduate second grade, going to third, what to expect for third grade. You're going back to letter grades, and what does that mean? I mean, you're going to have a parent that's been trained for 4 years, and all of a sudden it's something completely different again. See what I'm saying? There's got to be some kind of way, whether it's going from first, it don't matter the grades, but just going from standard back to letter grades, whatever year it is, where the parents can realize what's going to happen the following year. See what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So it sounds like communication is going to be very key through all this and
Well, that's what
transitioning so
I'm
that they
saying.
know
I mean,
you're going to go to another campus, and with that comes these things. And one
Right.
of the things on the list is going to be the grading, the
Right.
report card grading. Any other?
I was
Yes, sir.
long-winded, long way around that, but I think you understand what I was trying to say.
Yes, sir.
Any other board thoughts, questions? Any additional comments, staff?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Cook, does that conclude the presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Coming back, I got kicked out. There we go. Okay. All right, so this item is for consideration of action of approval of the standards-based grading report card for first grade. Certainly, if the board is inclined to amend that for second grade at a future date,
I think we got to bring
floor is
that.
open for,
I think we
board
got to talk
discussion.
about second grade at a different date because it's not on the agenda.
Yes.
okay, thank you for that clarification. All right, so we will be, consider action on first grade. Do we have a motion?
So move.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Hill, second by Mr. Rector. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
We have 4 ayes, 1 nay. The motion carries. Okay. Next item on the agenda is consider and approve the TASB-initiated policy update 121 affecting local policies, and there's several here regarding accounting, inventories, safety program, risk management, security personnel regarding school resource officers, buildings, grounds, and equipment management and maintenance, insurance and annuities management, unemployment insurance, facilities construction competitive bidding, facilities construction competitive sealed proposals, compensation and benefits, compensation plan, admissions, and then the last one, student welfare, freedom from bullying. Mrs. Cook.
This is, you will begin to see lots of legislative updates coming soon. This one is very simple. This was more of a cleaning up of language. If you had a chance to read through it, there was a lot where they were Basically removing where it would say the superintendent or designee, and they've removed or designee. They expect this has the superintendent is the one that would shall ensure these things are done and so forth, instead of being able to say a designee. So there was a lot of cleaning up of that language through these. There was really nothing that jumped out at me unless you had some questions. We did have the bullying. Let's see, where was the bullying? Administrative procedures to ensure that minimum standards for bullying prevention are implemented. And so we do have minimum standards in our bullying prevention standards and so forth. And that's a huge thing Mr. Williams has worked on. Mr. Bennett. Well, I went way back there. Mr. Bennett has been working on with our principals and the implementation of this over the years. So we have that in place and continue to monitor and look at that as those things change. And then there's periodic monitoring that was added. Superintendent shall periodically monitor the reported counts of bullying incidents, and that declines in the count may represent not only improvements in the campus culture because bullying declines, but also declines in the campus culture because of a decline in openness to the report incidents. And so that has been added, so something to make sure that we do monitor that, but to do this in maybe a report out, I feel would be a great thing to use as part of that addition. Other than that, those are the only things that jumped out at me. Unless you have some questions, I can try to answer them.
The second attachment in our board book for the instruction sheet, there's no changes there. That's just as a reference.
Correct. We have to include that.
Okay. Open up to the board for any questions or comments. There's several here, so we'll give everyone a minute to refresh your memory.
Well, I read them over the weekend, so with that being said, I'll make a motion to approve the TASB policy update 121 that affects the local policies.
Blaze, do we have to call out the policy numbers?
No, the instruction manual is included for information that will also be attached to the minutes. So you can.
Update 121, don't take care of it?
Okay. Okay.
Second.
All right. We have a motion to approve all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 local policies. Motion by Mr. Stansberry, second by Mr. Rector. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next item of business, consider and approve the TEACS certification and instructional materials allotment. Mrs. Dominguez is not here.
No,
Mrs. Cook, you'll take
I'll
it?
be doing that.
Okay, thank you.
So you have your descriptor talking about the Texas Education Code requires to certify annually to the State Board of Education and the Commissioner that students have access to instructional materials covering all TEKS, Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, for all required subjects except physical education. So this is the TEKS certification allotment. We bring this each year to you. This is the form we're to complete to submit to TEA, and it has listed all of our instructional materials that we use. So if you have any questions, this is a standard yearly.
Any board comments or questions regarding the TEACS certification allotment for this coming year? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Rector. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Hill. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion carries. Next, we have consideration and approval of memorandum of understanding between APISD and the Community Action Corporation of South Texas Head Start Birth to Five program for the 2023-2024 school year. Mrs. Cook?
This is a continuation of a partnership we've had for many, many years, and most school districts do for a Head Start program. This is very beneficial in that they help us with the Child Find Act to go out and find those children that need this support and begin their educational access. So this is the basic MOU that we've used over the years, and just continuing our partnership. This one is for 2023 to 2024.
Any board comments or questions about this upcoming MOU? There's a lot of benefits here on this program,
Yes.
not just for preschool children, but children with disabilities, in
Yes.
helping them get assessed, evaluated, and meeting their needs, and then transitioning our Head Start children into public education.
I move we approve the MOU.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the MOU.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Stansberry, second by Mr. Rector. Any further discussion? We'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Remember 10 years ago, it was between APISD and Head Start. Now they've got a name about that long.
It was just Head Start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now for its Community Action Corporation of South Texas, Head Start Birth to 5 years. Nothing different, but the same thing. It's enough to confuse you.
All right, and so now we're at the point of our agenda, topics for future meetings. Board members?
I would like to request a presentation for the board on blended learning. After the discussions today, I think that it may be beneficial for all of us to have a refresher on what our district is trying to do with blended learning, where we're at with blended learning, and where we're going in the future. Our board has been reorganized. We have people who didn't get to attend our tours to see that on all of the campuses. So maybe we get another tour or something of the sorts. I don't know what the answer needs to be, but I think a presentation on that will help us all as we set our goals and we plan, and just to kind of keep in mind that vision of what's happening on our campuses and what we're trying to do. I think that that would be really beneficial for everybody.
Any additional thoughts on that? Any other items for future meetings? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Hill. At this point of our meeting, the board will convene an executive session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.001, concerning any and all purposes permitted by the act. Tonight we have section 551.074 personnel, new hires, Falk Elementary Assistant Principal, Falk Elementary Nurse, DOI local certification, resignations, information on new hires, and discussion of the superintendent search. It is now 8:20. I adjourn this open session, and we will move into our The time now is 8:53. We are now convened in regular session. As we've reconvened in open session here to act on any items requiring action from closed session, we have consider and approve the new hire for Falk Elementary Assistant Principal.
So move.
We have a motion by Mrs. Hill, second by Mr. Rector. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion carries. Next item requiring action is consider and approve a local teaching certificate utilizing the District of Innovation option for an 8th grade science teacher at AC Blunt Middle School. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rector. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Galvan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. If there is nothing further, I'm sorry.
Did you do the nurse?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
There we go. Thank you, Mrs. Cook. One other position, consider and approve the new hire for Falk Elementary nurse. Do we have a motion to approve this nurse?
So move.
Motion by Mr. Sansbury, second. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Hill. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Got it done.
Anything for the good of the order? All right then. So if there's nothing further, we're now adjourned at 8:55.